Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and I'm going on a long journey of trying to complete every single Game Boy Advance game in North America. This is the story of the highs, the lows, and all the silly stuff in between for the Game Boy Advance completion experience. This is GB Ace. Game number 5, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Wow, I really wasn't expecting a big draw like this so soon. Heck, this was technically drawn even sooner as the second random draw of the series, but I pushed it forward a little just to get some other quick clears out of the way first. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, developed at the tail end of 2004 by Jupiter and published by Square Enix. This was also the first Kingdom Hearts game released on a system that wasn't a Sony PlayStation console, giving Nintendo some love for this well-loved series. Although I personally wish they would have released at least the first game on a Nintendo platform around this time, as opposed to waiting until just a few years ago for the Nintendo Switch release. This is mainly because Chain of Memories is actually a bit of a bridge or transition title between both Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2, basically picking up where the first game ends and leaving off at where the second game begins. And it just felt kinda weird to have this title, but no way to give Nintendo-only crowds a way to experience more of the story, whether it comes before or even after this one. I guess PlayStation-only people also had that problem too, but instead missing everything in between. But at least they got Chain of Memories way before Nintendo got any sort of Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2 coverage. Enough of those semantics though, because we have a big game to talk about here. I'm not sure how long this summary will be, but this will easily be the first game that surpasses the 10 and even the 20-hour mark, so there's a lot to go over here. I suppose it's also very important to mention that there will be spoilers here for the Kingdom Hearts series. I'm not going to go too in-depth into the series and the plot points in this game, but I will essentially be covering all the main story stuff covered in this game. So if you haven't played this game yet and you want to experience it for yourself, well, you've been warned, because the rest of this video will probably cover quite a bit of that stuff. As far as my own personal history with Kingdom Hearts, I've actually never played this game before, but I did play both Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 when they initially launched on the PS2 about 20 years ago. So yeah, I know some stuff about this series. I far from know everything though, as even the Kingdom Hearts 2 plot has definitely thrown me through a loop at times, with various plot and story elements that left me scratching my head in confusion. However, I am kind of hoping that this playthrough and this game in particular will help fill in some of the gaps I have, so I am very much looking forward to this experience. In fact, of all the games in the GBA library I haven't even played before, this game was easily in my top 5 of most looking forward to playing for the GBA series. So this was a very exciting pull for me personally, especially this early on. As mentioned before, this game starts where Kingdom Hearts 1 leaves off. Sora and his allies, Donald and Goofy, and yes, the same Donald and Goofy from Mickey Mouse in case you've forgotten, or just somehow didn't know that Kingdom Hearts is quite literally a dream crossover between Final Fantasy and the Disney Corporation. But I digress. The three amigos are on a journey to find Sora's friend Riku and King Mickey. While on the hunt though, they find themselves in a mysterious place known as Castle Oblivion, a building that seems to be inhabited by strange people in black cloaks, and has the uncanny ability to make your memories start to fade away. After talking to one of the black-robed individuals, Sora seems to think that Riku and the king could potentially be in this tower, so he decides to throw all caution to the wind and risk losing his memories in the process, in an effort to find his friend and the king of his other friends. However, Sora is convinced that his memories won't actually be gone. After all of his experiences are forever located in his heart, so he should be fine, right? Well, we'll see about that anyway. Castle Oblivion actually has a really interesting makeup though, as it's not really a normal castle. In fact, each floor actually seems to be the embodiment of one of the many worlds that Sora visited in the first Kingdom Hearts game. Or at least, most of them anyway. And once again, this new adventure starts at Traverse Town, where he meets up with Leon, Yuffie, Aerith, and Cid. Yep, enter the Final Fantasy crew. So yeah, two major things to note about this game from the jump. Chain of Memories, although having a unique spin on the plot, is kind of a retelling of the adventures of Kingdom Hearts 1. You visit almost all of the same worlds, each world has very similar story beats to the original game, despite some very minor memory-based substitutions, and your time in Castle Oblivion is really just regulated to a few transition screens in between floors. I guess this was the justification for not releasing Kingdom Hearts 1 on any Nintendo system until recent years, since Chain of Memories pretty much goes through the first game's worlds anyway, albeit in a much more streamlined and abridged fashion. I guess you could call this game the Cliff Notes, or summarized version of Kingdom Hearts 1. Which, does that mean this GBA summary is a summary on a game summary? Summaryception, anyone? Anyway, even though this is kind of a retelling of Kingdom Hearts 1, I'm not implying that this game is not important, because I do think it is, and that it has great value in the overall Kingdom Hearts narrative. You just kind of need to open your mind a little more to the connection between the last game and the central theme of this game, which is the concept of memory, lest you forget the title. The other thing to keep in mind in regards to the unique standing of this game, and the other thing I wanted to touch on before we continue the summary, the gameplay and the newly altered combat system. Chain of Memories still has active RPG battling, just like the other games, but it takes a unique approach to the formula with a card battling mechanic. Every move you make in battle is done while playing a card, whether it be a basic attack, a spell, using an item, using your summons, etc. When I first learned that this game worked in this fashion, I was admittedly a bit nervous about it. Kingdom Hearts is a game where I just like to lose myself in the gameplay sometimes, kind of like how I do in hack-and-slash games like the Dynasty Warriors series, and having a card battle gimmick where I actually need to pay attention to what cards I use during battle, instead of just beating away all the enemies until I'm ready to move on, felt like that could have made this game a bit of a slog to get through. However, I was pleasantly surprised at how well it all flowed together. The game is not a traditional card battler where you have a deck and randomly get cards dealt in every battle like the Pokemon trading card game. Rather, you make the deck in the order of how your deck progresses and use that for the basis of your battle strategy. And as you progress through the game, you'll get many new cards to improve your deck and learn additional attack combinations to deal more damage and turn Sora into just as versatile of a fighter as he is in the other games. So yeah, while it's not as simple as mashing the attack button to win, you can still pretty much get to that point through a little bit of strategy and deck building, so it's not out of reach by any means. Getting back to Traverse Town, it seems as if our fellow Square Enix friends have forgotten who we are. Yet, for some reason, they at least know that our names are Sora, Donald, and Goofy. So even though they have no recollection of anything we've been through together, something in their hearts knows we are the real deal when we speak to them. And that's kind of how this game controls the narrative. After wandering around Traverse Town for a bit, and after seeing a few other cutscenes, we come face to face with Guard Armor, the first real boss of Kingdom Hearts 1, not counting Tutorial Side Heartless. Taking out Guard Armor is really no different than any other enemy. It just has way more health and additional parts that do damage, so he really isn't too hard. Okay, so another segue here, and I promise after this one we'll probably start moving through this a bit faster. But the card system doesn't just apply to the battles, but also on the field as well. Each world is basically set up like a small grid, and each room is given a specific property based on what map card you use to access it. So if you play a card that yields more Heartless, that room will have more Heartless to fight. Or if you play a card that stuns enemies, each enemy you fight in that room will be stunned at first. Stuff like that. You can also play treasure cards or Moogle cards and have the areas turn into freebie rooms with no enemies and give you a little bit of a break with potentially some goodies as well. You just have to make sure your cards also meet the room requirements as well, as some doors require a certain point threshold to get through, and you may not have that for the card you want to play. However, you can very easily get more cards by just battling enemies, so never feel like you'll get completely soft-locked or anything like that. But basically, for each world, you have to navigate around the map to access each of the relevant story points. And once you do, you'll fight the boss and pretty much wrap up that particular chapter, being able to move on and access the next floor of Castle Oblivion. Once you take out guard armor, you'll get the startling, but in reality not at all surprising revelation that the characters you're interacting with are not actually the real deal, but potentially illusions being set up by Castle Oblivion. Dun 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 dun. Once we're out of Traverse Town, we continue our ascent, but before we get very far, we run into a fiery-haired man named Axel, and... say the line, Axel. You know you want to. My name is Axel. Commit it to memory. I believe it's called Got It Memorized. Close enough, I guess. After a quick battle with him, he formally welcomes us and says we are ready for Castle Oblivion, and encourages us to keep moving forward in an effort to use our memories to remember someone who is apparently very special to us that we have forgotten about. We promise Axel that we will do our best to figure out who he is referring to and keep moving forward in the process. Here's where the game starts to get a bit non-linear, so to speak. The next 5 floors will actually differ depending on your own personal choice, as you get to choose the order of how you take on the worlds. For this playthrough, I just kind of picked what I felt like, but I did get a massive warning from people in chat that Monstro can apparently be pretty rough for a first-time player. So I did hold off on that level for now, and made my first destination Agrabah, the Aladdin world. And from there, the game pretty much repeats the process of what you did in Traverse Town. You go through the world, reaching each of the different story spots, and then taking on the boss to finish up the section. The story here is pretty much what you go through in Kingdom Hearts 1. You meet up with Aladdin and the genie, you find out that Aladdin has 3 wishes, he foolishly wastes 2 of them on minor heartless inconveniences that we could have easily taken care of ourselves. He gets the lamp stolen by the Vizier Jafar, who eventually uses the genie's power to turn himself into a powerful genie as well. And then we do battle pretty much in the same fashion as Kingdom Hearts 1, where we get control of Jafar's lamp and trap him in his itty-bitty living space for hopefully centuries, or however long it takes until the events of Return of Jafar begin to take shape. And that's pretty much it, really. We don't really interact with anything or anyone else. Gilbert Gottfried, or I'm sorry, Iago, is only in the boss battle, and although Jasmine is present, she doesn't really do anything aside from just, well, be there. Which is kind of a shame because she is probably the best Disney princess. Well, aside from Nala anyway. The level itself, beyond the story, was pretty much the same as what we dealt with in Traverse Town, although I will say the inclusion of the large bandit enemies in battles definitely made the fights here a little annoying. If you thought the large enemies sucked in Kingdom Hearts 1, well, they're not much better here. Basically, you can't attack these guys head on. If you use attack cards, you need to get them from the back. Otherwise, you need to use magic, and getting behind these guys is not easy. In fact, if you simply try walking around them, if you aren't fast enough, they'll just turn around too and prevent you from striking, which is really, really annoying. Because of this, I really had to learn how to start using slates, which, yep, another gameplay mechanic I still haven't talked about yet, so we better get through that now too. Slates are basically groups of cards played together, essentially a max of 3 cards played at once. Each card has a number associated with it, and if you play one normally, if an enemy plays a card of their own and it happens to have a higher number than what you played, they will break your card and you won't actually use or get the benefits of your card in question. Slates are a way to kind of circumnavigate that inconvenience, at the cost of your first card in the slate being removed until the fight is over. In addition to stringing your cards and attacks along like this, there is also another benefit in the form of slate skills, which are basically specific combos of cards used together, where if you meet the conditions, you'll actually perform a special move or ability, much like the abilities you can use and learn in the other Kingdom Hearts games. The first slate skill we learned was actually a really nifty sliding move, which I could actually use quite effectively against the bandit enemies that were giving me trouble. It would help me get behind them and then stun them a bit as well, so I could continue putting the damage on them when they were trying to recover. Really helpful stuff, I must say. And really shows the power and importance of how slates will get you through this game. After clearing out Agrabah, I didn't go ahead and move on right away. Instead, I decided to do a bit more grinding in the 2 worlds I had ventured in, just to continue to get more experience and familiarity with the game. Much like other RPGs, you do level up after getting certain amounts of experience, and although your character doesn't personally get stronger in terms of offensive power, each level up you can choose whether to increase your HP, your max card points, which will allow you to equip stronger or just more cards in general, or in some cases, learn a new slate skill. So yeah, there's still definitely value in the XP grind if that's how you choose to power through this game. During this grind was also when I first discovered the Moogle shop, which is basically a shop where you can purchase card packs with Moogle points, or sell cards you don't want to use anymore for more Moogle points as well. Now, the cards you get from this are completely random, but hey, due to the nature of this game and the extreme number of possibilities you have, that's really not a bad thing. You usually get something great from doing this, so it never hurts to expand your options. Plus, much like EXP from enemy fights and map card drops, you can farm Moogle points pretty easily by just going around the different worlds and destroying certain fixtures or boxes, or standing on specific structures to draw out the Moogle points, which are basically red orbs. Then you can reset the room and check those same spots again for more. You can also do this with green orbs as well if you're low on HP, since those are the HP orbs, and sometimes you can draw out a hidden card as well, so never be afraid to spend some time getting some extra resources in this game. Once I was done with the grind, I decided to move on to the next world, which I decided was Wonderland, the Alice in Wonderland universe, another classic Disney movie from my childhood. Wonderland was honestly not too difficult of a world either, although like Agrabah, it did have those annoying large body enemies again, and damn, they were honestly more annoying than the bandits somehow. Oh well, at least we have a pretty good strat for dealing with them now. Getting back to the plot of this world, we find out that Alice is currently on trial for the theft of the Queen of Hearts' memory. However, since we know this is Castle Oblivion and things of the mind are completely scrambled here, we interfere and help Alice out of her jam. We battle with a bunch of card soldiers, meet up with Alice and the Cheshire Cat, who continues to speak in silly little riddles, and then we meet up with the boss of Wonderland, the same boss we fought in Kingdom Hearts 1, the devious Trickmaster. Now, interestingly enough, I think the Trickmaster can actually be a pretty brutal fight in Kingdom Hearts 1 if you aren't prepared for it. It can hit pretty hard for the early game, and the arena can actually make you feel like a sitting duck at times. However, it was kind of a pushover in this game, not gonna lie. Heck, even when the table gets set up, you can very easily just spam magic attacks and really put the hurt on them. Makes me kinda wish I did Wonderland first, honestly, but oh well, no big deal. With Trickmaster down, Sora and Alice confront the Queen one final time, and trick her into thinking that she ordered us to take down the Heartless. Wow, very cunning trick there, Alice. Major props for you for that one. Real talk, it was actually kind of cool that we got to interact with Alice in this story, considering all she does is get captured and vanish in the first game. But no, here she shows us that she has some spunk and sass to back up her character, and that was nice to see for a change. So yeah, maybe this puts Alice in the running for Best Disney Princess now. Behind Nala, of course. Next up for our world tour is the land of Halloween Town from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Probably one of my favorite worlds in the original Kingdom Hearts game, just because of its unique atmosphere. Here we find out that Dr. Finkelstein is working with a potion that is capable of restoring memory. And since we're kind of in that line of work in this game, obviously we take an interest in and work with him and this world's poster boy, Jack Skellington, to procure the potion. Of course, before we get a chance to see the potion in action, it is taken by the big bad Oogie Boogie, who downs it himself and starts going crazy, meaning we have to be the ones to subdue him. I will say though, this world was when the game really started to pick up for me. I had enjoyed the game so far, but it was around this point where I really started feeling like I had a handle of everything. It helped that I learned Sonic Blade around this time, a very powerful maneuver Sora is known for, that he actually picked up from Cloud in the first game, which allows him back-to-back sword thrust attacks in quick succession. It's great for really putting the hurt on targets when they're bunched up in the middle. However, this did not transfer over very well for the boss fight though. This was easily the worst boss fight so far, and it's because Oogie is not even targetable until his fence goes down, and you lower the fence by attacking the dice and or waiting for a Mickey Mouse card that lowers the fence completely. I wasted a lot of my cards and slates on the dice when I probably should have just waited to bring out the pain when the fence went down. And because of this, I didn't have a lot of cards by the final rounds of the fight. I still had enough to win, but it was getting kinda sketchy there for a bit. Once Oogie was taken down, the Halloween Town story is finished, so we said all of our goodbyes to the Spooky Land natives, Jack, the Doc, and his creation Sally, who I stand by is absolutely cute and adorable. You know what? Sally, best Disney princess, hands down. Well, on second thought, maybe not the absolute best. For our next world, I decided to go to the Olympus Coliseum, the Hercules world, another one of my favorites from the original game, just because of all the random fighting tournaments you can do throughout your adventure. Will this game feature that mechanic as well? We'll just have to wait and see. But as this game's general story for the world, there is a competition going on, but it's reflected in the world's general progression, so nothing really that special. However, Hades is up to his old James Woods tricks again as he is out to off Hercules, and once again hires the ex-soldier himself, Cloud Strife, to take on that job. We decide to interfere with these plans and have a battle with Cloud himself, which honestly goes pretty well considering how quickly and effectively we take him down. He was probably even wondering how the hell we were able to master his Sonic Blade technique so efficiently too. Eventually, it's time to try and take down Hades, who eventually fires Cloud for getting beaten by us, but we step in for our boy from Nibelheim and he decides to try and cook our goose instead. Spoiler alert, he does, and I actually take my first death of the playthrough here. However, I stand by the fact that it was mostly due to my own hubris that this happened. I wasn't paying attention to my card and slate usage, and had a lot of my attacks do nothing when Hades was invulnerable. When I tried the battle a second time, it went a lot better, and I took down the King of the Underworld. We follow this up by getting the final world monologue and our lesson about memory. We say our farewells to Cloud, who gives us him as a summon card, more on that later, and wonder where the hell Meg was during all of this. I mean, not like it matters, she's no Nala or anything, but come on, the Disney princess types need to show up to some extent, right? Monstro was the last world remaining on this first batch of levels, which is supposed to be the Pinocchio world, and this world takes place inside the belly of a monstrous whale, a whale that looks like he inhaled the entirety of the 1960s. Pinocchio and his father Geppetto are stuck inside Monstro, and our goal for this world is to try and get them out. Along the way, we fight a giant Heartless named Parasite Cage, and yes, the same annoying Parasite Cage from the first game. Given, not as annoying in this game, but still kinda tedious as the entire fight takes place on these rotating platforms over acid, which can really limit your card and slate usage. But hey, at least I didn't die here like I did during the Hades fight. I was also really starting to get very accustomed and used to combat now, making use of a lot of the skills and abilities I learned so far, and expanding my deck so I could use other items and spells too. Because of this, my fights against enemies were getting a lot faster, and I felt like I was progressing quite nicely through the game. Before I knew it, Monstro was actually done and over with already, and after hearing so many things about how hard it was from other people, I was surprisingly underwhelmed here. But hey, maybe there is a reason why I was told what I was, so I'll take their word for it. Getting back to Castle Oblivion, there have been some plot-relevant things that I haven't mentioned yet. As we've been climbing the tower, Sora's memories have certainly started fading, but one specific memory is starting to emerge in the form of a fourth friend he apparently had on the Destiny Islands alongside Riku and Kairi, and that friend is apparently a girl named Naminé. However, it took until now for Sora to remember her, and it seems like, if anything, he's not so much remembering her, but kind of replacing his memories with her. But we'll see more about that as we continue climbing. We also see the villains of this game start to appear and reveal themselves, as Axel and the other black-robed person aren't the only ones here with us. There's also Larxene and Vexen, and they seem to have some purpose with us being inside this tower that will get revealed later. Larxene ends up teasing Sora a bit, but while doing so, reveals that Naminé is actually here, which sets Sora off and gets him to have a fight with her. This fight was actually pretty challenging, Despite having a good deck with some good combos, XIII was fast, and it was hard to get her to stand still so I could do damage to her. However, after a few well-placed combos and slates, I managed to get her to stand still and take her out. As a reward, XIII gives us some more world cards to play with, giving us access to 4 more worlds in the game: Atlantica, Neverland, Hollow Bastion, and 100 Acre Wood. Because I got to this point near the end of a stream session, I decided to go to 100 Acre Wood because, hey, surely the Winnie the Pooh world isn't too extreme, right? Well, it wasn't, but I'll be real here. This was probably the lowest part of the game for me. This world isn't set up like all the other worlds in the game. Instead of the grid-based world progression with card battles along the way, this is just an escort minigame where you must guide Pooh across a linear path and have him interact with his friends along the way. It was slow, Pooh gets distracted very easily. I actually spent like close to 30 minutes trying to figure out how to get Rabbit to pay attention to me, even after looking at a guide that completely lied and misdirected me with how to get his attention. It was a painfully slow process that I did not enjoy in the least bit. And what's the purpose of this? Just some extra reward, spell, and summon cards, that's all. It really wasn't worth my time, and I just did not enjoy this at all. Sorry, Pooh Bear, but your minigames in the other Kingdom Hearts game were so much better than this one. When we get back to Castle Oblivion, we finally run into a very familiar face in the form of our friend Riku. However, he seems pretty hostile again, like he was throughout the first Kingdom Hearts game. However, he does seem to be familiar with Naminé as well, so that does at least confirm Sora's recent memory retrievals. Right? Again, more on that later. We do battle with Riku, and after our slight struggles with XIII, Riku actually proves to be a bit of a pushover with our current card setup. Also, biggest MVP of my deck, definitely the Cloud Summons. I managed to pick up 3 Cloud cards at this point, which gives him the Omni-Slash skill when using a slate of 3 Cloud cards, and it absolutely wrecks single targets with 3 very strong hits. Definitely a worthwhile investment, I must say. But even more than that, Riku is just not as fast as XIII was, so it was a pretty easy fight to manage overall. Next up in our Disney tour was the world of Atlantica, and, well, this world had some good points and some bad points. I'll start with the good first. Throughout our adventure, I had noticed that every world had a treasure room that could only be accessed with very specific gold cards. However, these gold cards will not appear until floors 7 or higher of Castle Oblivion. Almost immediately when spending time in Atlantica, I got my first gold card drop and rushed for the Atlantica door to see my reward. Much like the normal treasure rooms of the game, you can get special abilities or card drops in these rooms, and most of these are pretty advanced, which makes them very worth picking up, I think. Of course, you do have to kind of backtrack to older worlds to get them, which is a bit of a pain, but still, there are some nice things to get, most notably the Lionheart and Metal Chocobo attack cards, which were probably 2 of my favorite Keyblades in Kingdom Hearts 1. Anyway, I was actually surprised at how often these gold card drops happened, as I was getting them almost after every freaking battle it seemed like. So my first hour of Atlantica felt more like 3 or 4 battles, getting a gold card, and going back to an older world to pick up another reward, before returning back to Atlantica and repeating the process. As tedious as this backtracking was, though, it was probably for the best because Atlantica kinda sucked. Now, thankfully you don't have to worry about awkward swimming controls like you did in Kingdom Hearts 1, but almost every enemy in this world is a flying or hovering enemy in the card battles, and most of my moves were focused on ground targets, which made fighting these enemies ridiculously annoying. I did not have fun going through this world, but if it wasn't for the treasure cards, or the fact that I learned Ars Arcanum, a pretty base combo move slate, this would have probably been my least favorite world of the game overall. The story is nothing to write home about either. Flounder was apparently rumored to be in another world. Ursula promised Ariel that if she got the trident that she would take Ariel to Flounder. We confront Ursula about her lies, Ariel gives the trident anyway, and then we fight Ursula to put a stop to her. Pretty basic stuff. Also, kinda shameful that you trusted Ursula so easily, Ariel. Nala would have never done that. After Atlantica, we move on to the next world of Neverland. the Peter Pan world, but not before having another fight with Riku, who went down just as easily as the first time. This world was actually pretty fun, believe it or not, and you spend pretty much all of it in Captain Hook's ship, which is not very exciting, but hey, at least the enemies were not all flying enemies this time, so I had some good times with my card setup again. For this world's plot, Wendy apparently got captured by Captain Hook, and Peter Pan is here to save her, and we're just kinda here too, I guess. This also really showcases how much of a jerkbag Peter Pan is, but hey, what do you expect from someone who truly never grows up? The battle with Captain Hook was surprisingly free for me, and I say surprisingly because apparently this battle is known for being notoriously hard for some reason, but I think I held it down pretty nicely. I think it's hard just because Hook has a lot of zero cards, which can auto-break normal attack cards when played as a countermeasure, something I should probably get better at doing myself. Again, more on that later. Anyway, we finish up Neverland, say our goodbyes to Wendy and Peter, and head towards the final world of this section, Hollow Bastion. Yeah, it was only a matter of time before we got here, probably the most iconic Kingdom Hearts 1 location, and the headquarters for the Heartless in the first game. The plot here is kinda strange, because it's kind of a hybrid of Beauty and the Beast, but with Maleficent being the villain instead, which is odd. But it's really just Maleficent capturing Belle, tricking Belle into trying to keep the Beast away from her, and us interfering and trying to stop her. Maleficent even turns into her dragon form as well, which is pretty epic. In fact, it's so epic that I actually got obliterated by her in my first attempt. It was actually really hard to attack her, and her fireballs kept interfering with all of my slight combos, so I got to low health pretty quickly. My second attempt was only a little better, but I did manage to clutch it out despite being almost dead by the end of it. I might be fine, I don't... I think I got her. Oh god, that was really hard. Hollow Bastion cleared, Beauty and the Beast reunited, and the second batch of worlds completed. Also, I stopped the Nala references because I didn't want them to get too old, and I kinda ran out of segues anyway. Although, Simba does think that she's a beauty. And she's also quite beastly as a lioness. Ah, see what I did there? We take a little time here to get reacquainted with the plots, and the main villain of the story, Marluxia, shows his face as well, so that was pretty interesting. Apparently these guys are from an odd group known as Organization 13, and they're rather mysterious, and their goals are a little... Okay, even I'll be real here, I don't even know what their goals are either, but they're definitely the ones causing the turmoil we're currently dealing with. In fact, Naminé is actually here, and a part of the organization's plan. In what way, though? Definitely as a high-level distraction at the absolute least. Vexen, who is apparently the highest-ranking member of the organization, is also pushing a motive of his own, as Riku's presence in this place has actually been his doing, and we actually meet him and do battle with Vexen here, who is actually hands down much easier than the Maleficent fight was. We're given another world card, which means, yep, this game is not over yet, and this card actually takes us to Twilight Town, a place that means absolutely nothing if you haven't played Kingdom Hearts 2. But if you have, yep, this should be ringing a lot of bells for you. The enemy variety at this place is pretty much a mix of a lot of the stuff we've seen before, just buffed a bit to match the difficulty of this part of the game, so it wasn't too bad to get through. The world is also a bit shorter as well, so you won't be spending too much time here. Eventually we meet up with Vexen again and proceed to have another fight with him. This fight actually gave me some more issues than the previous fight we did though. His attacks just seemed stronger, and he used a lot of powerful slates as well, so my cards and combos kept getting broken. Once again, I did take a death, in fact I actually took 2, but on my third attempt I finally got him. Although it was annoying because he healed right as I was about to land the finishing blow on him, which means I had to knock out even more of his health in the process, while also being incredibly low on health myself. It was another clutch finish, but I pulled it off. Come on! Oh my god. Before Vexen is able to do anything else, though, a surprise attack from the shadows comes out of nowhere and takes him down for good. And it's actually the flaming chakram of Axel's, the fire boy we fought earlier. Did he do this to help us? Well, hard to say. You see, Marluxia, Larxene, and Axel have kind of their own motives at play right now. They're intending to take control of the organization because they're on the lower end of the totem pole. And since Vexen is a higher-ranking member, he had to go first. However, it does seem like Axel is kind of his own game he's playing as well, because he also lets Naminé escape? You know, I really want to understand this organization more, as right now it just seems like a random hodgepodge of evil people doing evil things to usurp evil from other evil people, and it kind of makes my head hurt a little bit. But hey, I'm at least a little more invested in these guys than I ever was in Kingdom Hearts 2. I just did not really care for or think much about them in my first playthrough, although that was almost 2 decades ago now, so it's understandable that I've probably matured a lot since then. We fight Riku again, who is still antagonizing us despite Vexen being gone, but even he is going all in on the whole Naminé thing at this point, saying he's trying to protect her from us. After we easily beat him again, Donald and Goofy start laying some really nice hard facts on Sora, being very concerned about his current state of being. Sora has gone from not even remembering Naminé to her being the only thing on his mind, being unable to remember or recollect anything else from his past. This actually causes Sora to get mad and run ahead of his 2 friends, his only focus being on saving and protecting Naminé at all costs. Sora got another card from Riku, and this one takes him to the Destiny Islands, Sora's original home before the events of the first game. It's here that Sora can finally get a bit of clarity on the situation, as everyone here seems to at least confirm and back up Sora's story that there is a girl on this island that is incredibly special to him, one that Sora is quite certain is Naminé. After wandering around a bit and doing the general world clearing process, Sora ends up at the boss, Darkside Heartless. I guess he showed up after all. And let me tell you, this was the biggest wall for me at this point in the game, and I was really shocked that this was the case. If you played Kingdom Hearts 1, this boss is a joke. A literal slow-moving damage magnet for you and your Keyblade. Here, however, this guy has a lot of HP, and after using many of my cards, slates, and combos, I could only get rid of half of his health before I started running out of cards. And to top it all off, his attacks hurt really, really bad. And the arena had a really annoying wind effect that kind of kept dragging me into the attacks as well. I had to really change up my strategy here if I wanted to take him down. After stewing on the battle overnight, I came back the next day with a new strategy. Although, admittedly, my strategy was really just the addition of a single card, the Maleficent Dragon card that I got for beating her. This card pretty much increased the strength of all of my attack cards for 30 attacks. And with the combination of this new strength and some of my more powerful slates, I finally got the big guy down. Well, looks like I know what card I'll be carrying for the rest of the game. After the defeat of Darkseid, we finally run into the mysterious Naminé, and while Sora is excited to see his old forgotten friend, we finally learn the truth of Naminé's power. Naminé is not Sora's friend, rather a witch who is capable of manipulating Sora's memories to make it seem like she was more important than she actually was. This was apparently Marluxia's plan all along, to erase Sora's memories and turn him into a puppet capable of doing Marluxia's bidding through Naminé's false reality. This is made even more clear when Larxene returns to confirm this and challenge us to another battle. Larxene gives me trouble again because she is still really, really fast, but with a little persistence, perseverance, and a slight deck edit, she isn't too bad, I guess. With this, we finish off Larxene for good, and with only 2 organization members left. Before we get a chance to chase them down, though, Riku returns again and challenges us to a fight again. But this time, he's a lot more dangerous. He really piles on the attack cards, and he has a really annoying Dark Aura attack, which does massive damage and can combo you pretty consistently. It was here that I realized I needed to change my deck again, coming to the realization that while some combo attacks like Ars Arcanum and Ragnarok are good damage-wise, they are also easily breakable, while attacks like Sonic Blade are harder to break and can actually break the enemy slates too, so it was less about piling the damage on at once, but more about piling it on at the right time, something I probably should have been paying more attention to throughout the game. Better late than never though, I guess. We finally take down Riku, and this time for good, and Sora finally learns that this Riku is just a puppet of Vexen, so he's not even the real thing. We make up with Donald and Goofy, we hear Naminé's full story, and while Sora is mad that Naminé deceived us, he is at least willing to keep his promise to protect her, even if she isn't the girl he initially made the promise with, because at the core, even if they are false memories, they are at least the memories in the moments. So now we press onwards into the heart of Castle Oblivion, the last map area of the game. The enemies here are tough and tanky, and there are a lot of rooms to get through, but I suppose it's fitting for a final area of the game. After all, gotta power level up somehow if you aren't strong enough to beat the endgame. Marluxia ends up capturing Naminé again, and also confronts Axel for letting her go in the first place. Apparently it's revealed that Axel is working as a double agent for the organization, and his main goal is to just root out the traitors. Yet, he was the one who killed Vexen just to get the loyalty of the traitors? I don't know, Axel is apparently just an agent of chaos, I guess. A true chaotic evil, I guess you could say. At one point, he's about to strike both Naminé and Marluxia when Sora shows up, intending to keep his promise to always protect Naminé, no matter the cost, and no matter how messed up his memories actually are. We fight Axel again, and honestly he was probably the easiest boss of this endgame stretch, as he goes down easily, leaving only Marluxia left to take down. We go through a few more rooms, and come face to face with the final challenge. Marluxia is tough. He's almost as speedy as Larxene is, has just as much health as Darkseid did, but also has the power and combo potential to strike back tremendously. Definitely a fight worthy of being the finale. It was rough, it was tough, but after a lot of persistence and a few deck modifications, I was able to take him down. But of course, that wasn't it. The stubborn fool has one last fight in him, and this time he's in some kind of weird mech machine. This fight was interesting. It is difficult, as it probably should be, but I'd say the difficulty lies more in lasting the long game than actually dealing with his attacks. You see, Marluxia doesn't really use slates in this battle. Instead, he just kind of plays cards, and your strategy is just to break the cards until he becomes vulnerable, and then you lay the damage on him. It sounds simple enough, but while doing this, you still have to watch out for his most damaging attacks. Plus, he has these annoying little sentry weapons that keep coming back and interfering with you doing damage to the guy, so take care of them when you can. Otherwise, they'll sap your health like crazy. I had one really good attempt at the end of a stream where he only had half of his last health bar remaining, but I didn't have any more cure spells left and couldn't quite survive the onslaught, which means I had to give up for the day. But the next day, I was ready for action. It took me 45 additional minutes to take him down, but eventually I had a good run and was finally able to finish him off. I didn't really change my deck too much either, aside from adding some more high attack cards. Plus, it also helped that I noticed that the little sentry guys could also be easily broken with a card break too, so that really took the pressure off. And after an Omni Slash from Cloud, Marluxia was history. We sealed him off for good, said our goodbyes to fake Riku, and then talked with Naminé, who promised to give us our memories back, or at least get them restored. You see, she didn't actually cause us to forget. She just rearranged the memories in our bodies and manipulated some new ones involving her. As she explains, memories are like the links on a chain. A chain of memories, you could say. And she just relinked them in an artificial way that made Sora seem like he forgot. The only caveat is, in order to get these memories relinked in the correct way, Sora needs to be dormant for a while, and everything after entering Castle Oblivion will be forgotten, including Naminé herself. However, leave it to Jiminy Cricket to write a reminder to thank Naminé in his journal, just so we never truly forget her or what she's done to help us, officially setting up the story of Kingdom Hearts 2. And with that, the credits roll, which means game complete. Wow, this was definitely the longest game we've played so far, but I'm also kind of not that surprised that it was. It is an RPG after all. It's just kind of funny going from 3 games that took only 2 hours to complete to one that took 24 whole hours to complete, officially tripling the current overall duration of GBAs, at least at that point. Anyway, back to the game really quick. I really enjoyed this one. Like I said before, this was probably one of the games I was looking forward to most for this challenge, and it did not disappoint. Definitely not a perfect experience, but I was pleasantly surprised with how well the game worked and functioned. The card battling definitely takes some getting used to, but I felt that by the second stream I had a pretty good system figured out, and was cruising through the game pretty efficiently, even if a boss or two took a few extra attempts. I should also mention that this game did eventually get a console release in the form of Chain of Memories, which basically makes the graphics and presentation look more like Kingdom Hearts 1, there's voice acting and more cutscenes, and it's the version you'll generally get if you purchase any of the modern-day Kingdom Hearts compilations and collections. I'd be interested in playing this someday, just to see what it's like and how it feels to play, but I honestly thought it controlled just fine on the GBA. Honestly, my only frustration came from activating slates, since you activate them by pressing L and R together when you already use L and R to switch between cards. So sometimes if you try to activate a slate, you may accidentally shift over to a different card instead if you aren't accurate. And since I'm someone who used them a bunch, this little nuance came up a lot as well. As far as the plot is concerned, it's definitely a thing, but as someone who played Kingdom Hearts 2 before this game, I appreciated the fact that the game helped me understand some of the plot elements that confused me during my initial Kingdom Hearts 2 playthrough, so it definitely answered some questions for me. All the Disney stuff is just kind of there though, and it honestly felt like it was there just to add content, since all of it was simply rehashing from the first game anyway. I don't know, just kind of wish they would have done a little more with it, that's all. And as far as the game presentation is concerned, the graphics honestly look pretty good for a GBA title. Best looking game we've played so far. And the sound quality was fine. Many of the songs are just songs from the first game made in the GBA sound font, and some obviously work better than others. Don't be surprised if they start getting a bit repetitive though, through some of the long stretches of similar gameplay that you'll be experiencing. Also, I probably didn't showcase too much of the music in this video. That's just because Square Enix and Disney are both known for putting out copyright claims, and yeah, I really didn't want to deal with that in this video, so I hope you understand. Before we officially end this recap, some of you are probably wondering, Slim, why are you stopping here when you've only played half the game? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, after beating the game, you actually unlock a second game-long scenario in the form of Riku's story, a different campaign that pretty much takes you through the same endeavor Sora just went through, just under some different gameplay stipulations, and a different cast of characters and some different story elements. Many of my Kingdom Hearts friends, and I trust them on this, say that the game isn't truly complete without a playthrough of this mode as well. However, after 24 hours of GBA straight with this game, I'm not ready to jump back into another playthrough so soon. So, here's my compromise for that. I'm marking Chain of Memories as complete for now, and moving on to the next game. But later on down the line, maybe as a milestone completion goal, I'll return to this game and play Riku's story as well. That way, I get the full experience, I can keep making progress on the list, and Riku's story is apparently shorter and more streamlined, so it shouldn't take as long to get through. I think it's only fair since I did technically see the credits for this, and that was my initial condition for beating games in the first place. But since I enjoyed my time with this one, I wouldn't mind seeing a bit more of it, so we'll come back to this game later. I'll even make an addendum video summary for it as well, so stay tuned for that in the future too. Let's finally move on to the ratings. For difficulty, I'm going to go with a 3 out of 5. It can be a very complicated gameplay system to learn at first, but once you get a handle of it, it can feel pretty smooth and natural, and put you on autopilot for a fair bit of the game. Those ending stretches of bosses definitely put me through the ringer at times though, but at least they never felt impossible. For enjoyability, I'm going with a 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this game. Best game of the challenge so far. Definitely has a learning curve to it, and it's far from perfect, but I was thoroughly entertained and engaged, and couldn't wait to get back to playing more of it in between streams of this. It was a lot of fun, and I had a really good time with it. Chain of Memories was a great experience, even if there was no Nala. Anyway, here's a sneak peek of the next game we'll be playing for this challenge. Okay guys, thank you for watching this summary. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave a comment and or like on the video, as those will really help me in these videos out. And stay tuned for future summaries of this series. If you also want to watch full playthroughs of these games for this challenge, check out the video description for a full playlist of everything that's been uploaded and exported so far. And if you're curious about what I'm playing right now for the challenge, be sure to stop by my Twitch channel to see what my current progress is. Just be warned, I'll be a lot further ahead of where we are for these summaries, so keep that in mind. This has been SlimKirby in the GBA series, and I'll talk to you fine people next time. Later, folks.